Red Book by Carl Gustav Jung.
The final word is love. That I had in my hands what I thought I could never love, and now I realized that what I did was love it. So what are you loving? You're loving your darker self. You're coming into an awareness of the fact that you and everything that you are not are essential for your existence, and you just have to make a compact with it. It is the aspiration of our humanity to have this kind of total peace with our planet and with the many ethnicities that surround us, to be integrated rather than restrictive, to love your own pollution. And why would you do that? Because pollution is the source of fertility. It's simple magic.
Shit is fertilizer, right?
That's right. I wasn't going to use the word, but yes, shit is.
Well, so we don't stop there, right? I mean, the connection is established.
But it's the basic. It shouts at us around us all the time. We don't want to face it. But yeah, and if you don't handle your shit correctly, it pollutes you.
Yeah. And how
But
that
not only physical shit, it's mental shit also.
That's right. And that's what I think is so important about the psychotherapeutic piece, is that when somebody comes in, one of the ways we get there is looking back at their past, and we start to mine through the territory. The irony is that we're not going to the past. We're looking at how the past is in the current moment. And Jung called this a complex. He said that essentially we have these splintered parts of ourselves that had to stay back there, and they're ways that we adapt to our environment. And now we've got to be conscious of them because they still have an effect emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, physiologically. And to reclaim and recollect those contents is in service of wholeness or being integrated, this kind of language that you're using. The interesting piece to this, though, is that when it comes to sex, drugs, rock and roll, and women, there seems to be some kind of active agent that's saying this, not that. And where women and substances like these sacraments tend to go are the unconscious. And we're talking now collectively. Like, as a culture, it's imperative in the same way that it's imperative for me to sit with my analyst and revisit these contents and bring them into present day. Collectively, it's the shit that we don't want to look at. Yeah. We need to go revisit this. What I'm looking for is, we lost our way. We lost our way in how we interpret. We lost our way in how we are religious. We lost our way in how we view ourselves and our environment and our world. And part of what I'm so turned on by is that this mythic framework feels enormously more pregnant and religious to me than anything I've ever stumbled across.
Yes, definitely. The mythical tradition is extremely profound, and seems to be it's endless. In my myth book, I said that the study of myth is a pathway that you take upon yourself, and you feel you've gone far along, and maybe you should turn back. But it looks as though up ahead is something that you really should investigate. And you keep going and going and going. When you get to the end, although you never do get to the end, what would you find? You'd find yourself.
Know to be true is that they have to be in a secure and a trusting relationship that's built on love and connection. They have to facilitate the capacity to look back into their lives and to not fall to pieces and dissociate. They have to have somebody there that can hold them psychologically as they do the work of integrating what this means to who they are today, and realize that that idea of who they were or who they believe themselves to be doesn't totally disrupt their capacity to be a full, complete, and beautiful member of both their own individuality and our collective individuality.
To know yourself.
Well,
if you don't know yourself, you don't know anything. The knower can't be separated from what is known. That's the falsity, that you stand outside and know, but you can't stand outside. You're part of the knowing. What Amon's work is demonstrating, that the original chemical vessel was the human body. That's why you digest chemicals in an alembic. It's the human body that's the original chemical transformative vessel. For that reason, the affluence of deity, talk about the sacred role ascribed to the various things that flow out of deity. But when you put this on the divine level, everything that comes out of the deity is holy.
Please, social boundaries out of the way so we can have honest conversations. And I get it. I mean, I've been I'm a newly inuit to this world, and I have gone through a threshold of anxiety, and then I think, I'm like, oh my God, this is like mind blowing. And then I keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'm going, oh my, this is radical. This whole thing is radical. So the reason I ask is because there seems to me that there's a collision between these body-based, pagan, nature-centric traditions that are, on the one hand, exploring alternate states of consciousness, the body, or the medical, to know the body, not from a position of like, I want to fix the body, but to know the body. There's that thread. And then there's something that comes along and says, this is amoral, you guys are doing some really heinous shit, and we got to stop this quickly. Yeah. And what that did is it gobbled up what was happening here into a patriarchal, all male tradition that seeks to prefer, that's not the right term, but prefer the literal interpretation of text rather than a deeper, more left-handed symbolic.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm poking around in that territory. And that's the other thing, is that, I mean, to me, this seems like what we're talking about is the reason why the film The Matrix was so popular.
Yeah.
Is we're in, which pill are you going to take here? Because if you take one of them, you'll go back to just living your existence, and your needs will be met. And I know people who yearn for that. Just tell me who to be, tell me where to go, tell me what's right and wrong, and I'm going to go about my business and be fine. And then there are other folks, and here we are back to this dual structure, that are like, no, man, like I want autonomy, and I want to see that from outside of it.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to talk about it because we'll get burned at the stake.
Yeah. What I'm particularly fascinated is that ancient rituals, and my particular concentration is what happened in the Dionysian Bacchanalian revel orgy, that they provided a group experience which was equivalent to what you do in psychotherapy.
Right. Help me pronounce it. Therapeutai?
Therapeutai, yeah.
Therapeutai, yeah. That was interesting to me. I mean, as a therapist, Carl Jung wrote this paper, Clergy or Psychotherapy, and he was really looking at the role that the healer has had in every culture and every iteration, which I get it, but now I'm getting it in a really new way.
The Red Book, published to wide acclaim in 2009, contains the nucleus of C.G. Jung's later works. It was here that he developed his principal theories of the archetypes, the collective unconscious, and the process of individuation that would transform psychotherapy from treatment of the sick into a means for the higher development of the personality. The creation of one of modern history's true visionaries, The Red Book is a singular work outside of categorization. As an inquiry into what it means to be human, it transcends the history of psychoanalysis and underscores Jung's place among revolutionary thinkers.
What about Jung? Do you think that he experimented with hallucinogens? Carl Jung, because he knew things, he knows things that you just can't believe anybody could know.
We know he spent a year in Taos, and that year is not documented, but he was experimenting with mind-altering substances.
Psilocybin?
Probably.
Was that before or after the Red Book, do you know?
I think the Red Book came out of that.
The Red One. The door of the mysterium has closed behind me. I feel that my will is paralyzed and that the spirit of the depths possesses me. I know nothing about the way. I can, therefore, neither want this nor that, since nothing indicates to me whether I want this or that. I wait, without knowing what I'm waiting for. But already in the following night, I felt that I had reached a solid point. I find that I am standing on the highest tower of a castle. The air tells me so. I am far back in time. My gaze wanders widely, over solitary countryside, a combination of fields and forests. I am wearing a green garment. A horn hangs from my shoulder. I am the tower guard. I look out into the distance. I see a red point out there. It comes nearer on a winding road, disappearing for a while in forests and reappearing again. It is a horseman in a red coat. The Red Horseman. He is coming to my castle. He is already riding through the gate. I hear steps on the stairway. The steps creak. He knocks. A strange fear comes over me. There stands the Red One, his long shape wholly shrouded in red. Even his hair is red. I think, in the end he will turn out to be the devil. The Red One. I greet you, man on the high tower. I saw you from afar, looking and waiting. Your waiting has called me. Who are you? The Red One. Who am I? You think I am the devil. Do not pass judgment. Perhaps you can also talk to me without knowing who I am. What sort of a superstitious fellow are you, that immediately you think of the devil? If you have no supernatural ability, how could you feel that I stood waiting on my tower, looking out for the unknown and the new? My life in the castle is poor, since I always sit here and no one climbs up to me. The Red One. So what are you waiting for? I await all kinds of things, and especially I'm waiting for some of the world's wells, which we don't see here, to come to me. The Red One. So I have come to absolutely the right place. I have wandered a long time through the world, seeking those like you who sit upon a high tower on the lookout for things unseen. You make me curious. You seem to be a rare breed. Your appearance is not ordinary, and then, too, forgive me, it seems to me that you bring with you a strange air, something worldly, something impudent or exuberant, or in fact, something pagan. The Red One. You don't offend me. On the contrary, you hit your nail on the head. But I'm no old pagan, as you seem to think. You sound cool and sneering. Have you never broken your heart over the holiest mysteries of our Christian religion? The Red One. You're an unbelievably ponderous and serious person. Are you always so urgent? I would, before God, always like to be as serious and true to myself as I try to be. However, that certainly becomes difficult in your presence. You bring a certain gallows air with you, and you're bound to be from the black school of Salerno, where pernicious arts are taught by pagans and the descendants of pagans. The Red One. You're superstitious and too German. You take literally what the scriptures say, otherwise you could not judge me so hard. A hard judgment is the last thing I would want, but my nose does not play tricks on me. You're evasive and don't want to reveal yourself. What are you hiding? The Red One seems to get redder. His garments shine like glowing iron. The Red One. I hide nothing from you, you true-hearted soul. I simply amuse myself with your weighty seriousness and your comic veracity. This is so rare in our time, especially in men who have understanding at their disposal. I believe you cannot fully understand me. You apparently compare me with those whom you know, but I must say to you, for the sake of truth, that I neither really belong to this time nor to this place. A spell has banished me to this place and time for years. I am really not what you see before you. The Red One. You say astounding things. Who are you then? That is irrelevant. I stand before you as that which I presently am. Why am I here and am like this? I do not know, but I do know that I must be here to justify myself according to my best knowledge. I know just as little who you are as you know who I am. The Red One. That sounds very strange. Are you something of a saint? Hardly a philosopher, since you have no aptitude for scholarly language. But a saint? Surely that. Your solemnity smells of fanaticism. You have an ethical air and a simplicity that smacks of stale bread and water. I can say neither yes or no. You speak as one trapped in the spirit of this time. It seems to me that you lack the terms of comparison. The Red One. You argue your case well, but your solemnity, you could make matters much easier for yourself. If you're no saint, I really don't see why you have to be so solemn. You wholly spoil the fun. What the devil is troubling you? Only Christianity, with its mournful escape from the world, can make people so ponderous and sullen. I think there are still other things that bespeak seriousness. The Red One. Oh, I know, you mean life. I know this phrase. I too live and don't let my hair turn white over it. Life doesn't require any seriousness. On the contrary, it's better to dance through life. I know how to dance. Yes, but we could do it by dancing. Dancing goes with the mating season. I know that there are those who are always in heat and those who also want to dance for their gods. Some are ridiculous and others enact antiquity, instead of honestly admitting their utter incapacity for such expression. The Red One. Here, my dear fellow, I doff my mask. Now I grow somewhat more serious, since this concerns my own province. It's conceivable that there is some third thing, for which dancing would be the symbol. The red of the rider transforms itself into a tender reddish flesh color, and behold, O miracle, my green garments everywhere burst into leaf. Perhaps too there is a joy before God that one can call dancing, but I haven't yet found this joy. I look out for things that are yet to come. Things came, but joy was not among them. The red one. Don't you recognize me, brother? I am joy. Could you be joy? I see you as through a cloud. Your image fades. Let me take your hand, beloved. Who are you? Who are you? Joy? Was he joy?
Jung's Liber Novus, and it's one of the most important books of my library. I'm very excited to explore the book. I was excited to read it again, and it deepened my understanding. I mean, taking another pass at this book has been very thrilling. I highly recommend it. Dr. Murray Stein, as I look at your bio and your history and what you currently do, you represent a collision of all kinds of different value systems that I'm curious about. I'm looking at your bachelor's, your MDiv, your work in psychology and religion, your doctorate in Chicago, and then in Jungian analytic training. And then, of course, you've written extensively on the Red Book. I know you've been thinking about this a lot. So I know we want to get into some of these books of yours, the anthology that you and Thomas Arndt begin. I'd really like to explore what this book means to you now, how you relate to it, what you think about it, what you've learned about it, just anything that you can start free associating about, and we'll see where we go.
Well, I continue learning from it, and in preparation for our conversation today, I was reading some passages that were suggested by your questions, your comments, and I'm always turning up something that surprises me. It's an amazing text, and Sonu Shamdasani's footnotes. If you follow those and down the tracks that they lead you, you uncover so much about Jung's thinking that is there and latent, but you hadn't really paid so much attention to. So I want to thank you for your prodding. And it did put me on to this connection to the to the Orphic mysteries that I'd looked at before, but I have a few things to say about that. But first, I'd just like to say that since the Red Book was published in 2009, it's been kind of a constant companion, I would say. It has remained on my desk. I usually am working with this version of it, the reader's edition, because the Red Book itself, the big one, is so large, cumbersome, and difficult to use. But if it comes to looking at paintings and so on, of course, it's essential. And 2009, I guess it was in October, November, the book was published. And I spent the Christmas holidays that year from 2009 to 10 reading it. And I got a German version as well. I read German pretty well and went back and forth between the English and the German. I must say I prefer the German. Original language is always better than the translation, but the translation isn't bad. There are a number of errors, there always are. And then I did a couple of programs with the Asheville Jung Center, I think 2010 and 11, on the Red Book, and I was very excited about it at that time. And then my interest cooled off a little bit. There were conferences every now and then. I wrote a paper or two. And then in 2016, Thomas Arzt introduced himself to me at a class at ISAP where I teach. And Thomas Arzt was a German physicist, PhD in quantum physics, spent time at Princeton, and had discovered there wasn't so much in physics for him, so he looked for other resources, and he discovered a Jungian analyst in the Black Forest in Germany, a woman who had been a student of Mary Louise von Franz, and he worked with her, and that really changed his life. And he became very interested in Jungian analysis and working with the unconscious and with dreams and active imagination. And he was on fire about the Red Book. We had lunch in 2016 at a very nice restaurant in Zurich. And he proposed that we set up a series of courses and seminars and workshops on the Red Book at ISAP, which is an international school for analytical psychology, really a training program for Jungian analysts in Zurich. I'm a training analyst there and a teacher. And at first I was sort of skeptical about this, because by 2016, a lot had been written about the Red Book, published, and a lot of conferences and seminars. And I thought, is there really anything more to say about this? But I went along with his enthusiasm. He was very infectious, very convincing. And so we did that and did a program at ISAP. And then he came up with the idea of collecting papers by prominent Jungian analysts and scholars on the Red Book and publishing them in a series. And I said, are you kidding? A series? How many do you think we can get? He said, well, we just leave it open-ended. We'll just keep going as long as it goes. So we started with the first volume that was published in 17, I think, and then another one in 18. I think you have those two there. Mm-hmm. Published 4 with 70 authors, 70 authors.
I'm missing 3 and 4, is that right?
There are 4. There's now a 5th volume. I'll tell you the story of that.
I'm way behind, man.
And he wanted to just leave it open-ended, keep going till, it peters out. But I was astonished at the amount of interest out there in the Jungian field. And the essays that we collected are all first-rate, really wonderful, classic pieces. All of them different, very diverse, taking Jung's Red Book from this angle, that angle. We called it Jung's Red Book for Our Time, Searching for Soul Under Postmodern Conditions. And Thomas was something of a Naturphilosoph, if you know what that is in German, and a philosopher. They call them nature philosophers. In other words, they take off from the natural world and speculate about the cosmos and about philosophical issues and so on. It's called Naturphilosophie. And he had edited a number of books in that field and was an expert. And he thought about the postmodern period as being very much a part of the beginning of a transition from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. And it's a time of confusion, of uncertainty, of a lot of chaos, as transitions always are. It's a period of liminality. And so in the first volume that you've got there, volume 1 of Jung's Red Book for Our Time, he laid out his view of postmodernity, what it is, what it needs, and how Jung's Red Book is a response, or can be a response, to the important questions of our time, these questions of uncertainty. So we started thinking, how can the Red Book answer questions that are arising 100 years after Jung created it? So it's a hermeneutic enterprise. These essays are taking something written a good while ago and applying them to our time today, as well as being in their own right scholarly and very detailed analyses of various aspects of the Red Book.